Excessive carbon, oil, and soot buildup inside the EGR valve area and the intake manifold restricts airflow into the engine. This buildup may be several centimeters thick before drivability is adversely affected. Associated problems occur in the intake valve port area, where intake valves are coking from these same deposits. And with excessive plugging of the EGR cooler tubes, the exhaust flow into the intake manifold is restricted when the EGR valve is open, thus altering the combustion process and producing drivability problems. The following procedure is recommended as a maintenance service on lightly restricted systems and as a repair service on heavily restricted systems that are experiencing drivability problems. The BG VW Diesel Air Intake and Exhaust Cleaning System includes an intake auger. This auger is designed to be installed after the EGR valve has been removed, in order to take out the bulk of the deposits and prevent chunks and thick slime from going through the combustion chamber during the service. This system also includes an intake manifold adapter that bolts directly to the front of the intake manifold after the EGR valve has been removed from this location. Different engines require different size adapters. The heart of the intake cleaning hardware is the air controller and chemical atomizer that controls the cleaning process. This adapter is universal and will fit into any size intake adapter. This system also includes an EGR cooler adapter and apparatus to fit the EGR cooler. A special double tank supply tool is included that will facilitate the cleaning of the intake area and the EGR cooler. Please read the entire BG VW Diesel Air Intake and Exhaust Cleaning System Service Manual. Make sure all safety procedures are followed and you have the appropriate safety equipment. The BG cleaning service described in this video is specifically designed to clean the EGR, air intake, plenum, intake valves, and the EGR cooler. It cannot effectively perform these tasks if the rest of the air and exhaust systems are not functioning properly. The turbocharger and catalytic converter should be tested to be sure they are operating properly before you attempt this cleaning service. A simple way to test the turbo is to remove the air boot that goes to the mouth of the EGR valve on the end of the intake manifold. Start the engine and let it run at around 1200 RPM to be sure there is enough boost to be noticeable. Check the end of the fresh air hose coming from the turbo to see that it is blowing air. If not, then the turbo is stuck and should be repaired or replaced. Also, check the wastegate lever on the turbo to be sure it is not stuck. Note: often a stuck turbo can be freed by the EGR cooler cleaning procedure, especially if additional cleaner is used during the service. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for testing the catalytic converter. If the turbo is stuck, there is a good chance the converter is at least partially plugged. Volkswagen does not recommend administering strong chemical cleaners through the EGR valve itself, as these cleaners may damage or destroy internal components of the valve. The following service procedure is always performed with the EGR valve removed from the vehicle. Remove the exhaust feeder tube to the EGR and then the vacuum hose from the EGR valve. To remove the EGR valve, unbolt the EGR valve from the front of the intake, then detach the vacuum hoses from the EGR vacuum motor, but not the shutoff valve. That assembly could break, requiring EGR valve replacement. Take the EGR valve and exhaust tube to the workbench for manual cleaning while the rest of the service is running. Be sure to use the original or new gasket between the cooler and adapter to prevent any cleaner from leaking. Install the EGR cooler adapter and exhaust tube flush adapter by connecting them to the front of the EGR cooler. Locate the intake auger. Place a shop towel or pan under the auger to catch the extracted deposit material. Very gently start threading it into the intake opening, using a 16 mm or 5/8 inch wrench or socket. Be careful not to push on the auger. Instead, let the auger pull itself in. This will prevent chunks from being pushed into the runners. Continue to thread in the auger until the T-stop hits the mouth of the intake. Turn the auger 1 full turn or more to break the deposits loose and then pull it out. The auger will remove most of the heavy deposits and will keep the engine from having to digest so much material during the chemical cleaning phase. Install the BG intake manifold adapter with O-ring seal. Make sure it is in place and not damaged. Attach the air controller and chemical atomizer to the adapter. Be sure the chemical atomizer is pointing up and not off to the side. Then, tighten the adapter. Turn the air control knob to adjust the vacuum setting for the vehicle being serviced. On the 1.9-liter TDI, set it at 1.5 for sea level, 1.25 for 1,000 to 3,000 feet, or 1.0 for 5,000 feet or higher elevation. Once set, tighten the air controller set screw. Set up a canister filling area away from the vehicle. Warning: these BG cleaners can damage paint, plastic, and rubber. Use only as directed and clean up spills immediately. Close the ball valves on both tanks of the double tank supply tool. Fill exhaust tank with 22 ounces of BG ISC Induction System Cleaner, part number 211, or 1 quart of BG Diesel Air Intake System Cleaner, part number 246, depending on the quality of diesel fuel used in your area. For this service, we will use 2 cans of part number 211. Use more only if necessary to unstick the turbo. Fill the intake tank with 32 ounces of BG Diesel Air Intake System Cleaner, part number 246. Be sure to use part number 246 only. The intake tank has the shorter hose. Make sure the tank caps are closed for transport. Be sure the vents on the tank caps are closed. Brace the hood and suspend the double tank supply tool from the hood latch and open the vents on both tanks. Connect each tank to its corresponding adapter assembly. Note: since this is a gravity feed system, it is important that the tool be suspended from the hood latch to allow proper flow rates. You must open the vents on both tanks. Be sure there are no kinks or loops in the line. Start the engine. It must reach full operating temperature before beginning this service. With the engine running at normal idle speed, close the air valve on the EGR cooler cleaning tool and connect shop air. Open the valve on the exhaust tank only, and then open the air valve on the EGR cooler cleaning tool. Allow the EGR cooler cleaning tool to run until the tank is empty and before starting the air intake cleaning service. Close the exhaust tank ball valve, but leave the air valve open during the remaining intake service. Use an accelerator depressor or other controller to adjust the engine to run at 11 to 1200 RPM. Open the ball valve on the intake tank only. You will soon notice the engine speed increasing from the introduction of the combustible cleaner. RPM should stabilize at roughly 1500. Once the RPM is stable, adjust the accelerator depressor to bring the engine back to 11 to 1200 RPM. Note: if you hear the engine clattering at any time during the service, simply shut off the valve to the intake tank until the clatter goes away, and then open and resume the service. While the intake and exhaust services are running, it's a good time to clean the EGR valve that was removed earlier. Use a small screwdriver or other instrument to scrape out the heavier and harder deposits. Then use BG Air Intake System Cleaner part number 406 and a soft brass brush to finish cleaning to bare metal. Take care not to get cleaners into the EGR shaft seals. Remove the exhaust feeder tube and clean the port where it enters the EGR valve. When the intake tank runs dry, raise the RPM slowly to 2,500 to 3,000 and hold for 2 minutes. This procedure will dry out the entire induction system and make sure there are no pockets of liquid left to drain into the cylinders. Disassemble the tools and remove them. Reconnect the factory system and install a cleaned or new EGR valve and exhaust feeder tube. Add 11 ounces of BG44K, part number 208, to at least 3/4 of a tank of fuel. This will clean injectors, glow plugs, and catalytic converter if equipped. Always drive the vehicle before returning it to the customer, so the engine's computer sensors can relearn its clean condition. The BG VW Diesel Air Intake and Exhaust Cleaning System is one of a complete program of maintenance services in the BG MAP from BG Products Incorporated, your partner in service success.